we were just talking about like games that you play, and you were like listing a couple, and and Bill just kind of like perked up, and he was like, "Oh, like I know this and that about it," or I just wanted to get into that. You play Madden a lot, and
No, I do,
we have two, I would say some of the best gaming professionals, like as far as like that I know, so I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about like, what goes on in the development of it, and what has to happen behind the scenes for someone like Matt or me to play, and we get our experience from that, and like the differences between certain games too.
I just want to come right out and say that I have like a tenth of the gaming experience that Bill has. So I'm here learning just as much as you guys are.
Is that how you guys met each other? Through gaming?
Yeah, I was going to a sort of secondary trade school for video game development.
Okay.
And Bill was a teacher there.
Oh, nice.
I didn't have a class with him, but one of my classmates did. And after graduating, the three of us started a kind of mobile indie game company.
Cool.
And you mentioned Last of Us. Did you play Last? So that was a company called Naughty Dog, and so I worked with them at a company called 3DO, which was a console before the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
And then basically the 3DO failed, and then I transferred. Oh, I asked Naughty Dog, is the PlayStation any good? Because they had an early version of it. And so they said, it's awesome. So then I decided to go work for PlayStation.
So you've been doing this a very long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. So
that's cool.
But in terms of, to kind of tie it back to Justin, meeting him. So the Naughty Dog was started by two, one MIT student, at least. So there's Andy Gavin, and then he was the engineer, and Jason Rubin was the artist. And so when I met Justin and his partner, it reminded me of the Naughty Dog team. And actually, so when I first met, I was really skeptical about it because making games is really hard. And so Josh is who was his partner. I said, all right, I'll come over to your house and meet it. And then I just remember Justin coming behind the curtain and being like, he's an MIT engineer. So I was like, oh, it just reminded me of Naughty Dog, basically. So I said, okay, we'll do it. So we started a company.
But Naughty Dog had made Crash Bandicoot in the very early PlayStation games.
Yeah,
that was one of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of ballooned out into, you were mentioning that you had been playing Last of Us as well, which is definitely one of their
biggest,
I think most acclaimed games of late.
Well, yeah, because of the HBO show. And stuff.
Kind of cutting across gaming into,
TV,
non-gamers. Even kind of familiar with the property.
It's funny because I watched the show first, and then I started playing the game, and I was like, "Oh, the game is way better."
I haven't seen the show.
Yeah,
but
I don't know anything about it. What's the premise? Like, with not the show, but what's easier to explain? The show or the game? Or
it's about like a post-apocalyptic kind of world where fungus takes over the world and humans, and they turn into like zombies.
That sounds awesome.
And they have to survive.
Dang.
All right, that's the gist of it, basically.
The gist of it, for sure.
It's a cool game.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It is. So when I started studying video games, I kind of stopped playing them altogether.
Okay.
But I would like watch other people play more often to see what their experience was like. And I watched a bunch of people playing The Last of Us. And even if you're not going to play through it, it's definitely like the kind of thing that you could watch somebody else go through it, and the story's just so compelling that it grips you.
Did you consciously stop playing video games when you started working on them, or just gradually or naturally?
I think it just kind of gradually happened. I was spending more time making them than I was playing them.
So it's just more of a time kind of thing.
It can definitely be kind of time consuming.
Yeah.
At least it was for me because I was playing way too much.
Did that happen with you too, Bill? Did you stop playing? or do you still play?
I play chess a lot, so I
Oh.
was playing this morning a lot. So,
Well, that's not on your phone. You were.
mhm.
I was gonna say
Or
that's like
laptop.
that's more of a like board game.
Lots of video games.
I
have
guess
board
gaming
games
is gaming.
kind of ancestry.
Well, I
gaming
always
is
play
gaming.
like 3-minute versions, so it's more like real-time strategy games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they call that shotgun? Or they call it?
Um,
There's a name for it, isn't there?
Blitz
Blitz. Yeah.
and rapid. So I think it's more rapid. Blitz is like 1 minute.
Oh,
You were talking a little bit about Madden before we got rolling, and I know that Matt's like, that's like his deal right now. I know he's been really into that, even to the point where he'll talk to me about his players.
Nice.
Like, not that I dislike it, but it's not our typical conversation in the gym. But it's been really fun to keep track with. And you had kind of mentioned that you knew some background on it, or you knew some information, and so
Yeah.
I wanted to see like some background, or if you knew the people that are involved in that a little, and even
Yes.
from Matt's perspective, it'd be cool to see the other
Well, a
side
couple
of
of
it.
things. There's a foreshadowing here about your identification with it, because I wanted to talk later. We could talk about identification with external things, because it's a big theme that we can get back to.
Sure, yeah.
But so it's good. So anyway, it's supportive. So the fact you're into it, it's really great.
Okay.
I think that's the positive thing about video games, is that actually it's sort of an ethical solution to a problem. To be human is having an external thing to identify with, and then that keeps you from being captured by other forces. So the fact that you're doing that is good, and then you can have conversations. I mean, obviously within reason. So
Yeah.
so it's just this theme of being captured. So and it relates to this scholarship I did on the Iliad, but we can circle back to that.
Yeah.
But in terms of electronic arts, it was started by Trip Hawkins, who was the one. I think he was the original marketing manager at Apple Computer, and then he just decided he wanted to make sports games. So he grew up doing like a board game, played this board game that was based on football simulation, but it was more of a board game version. I forget the name of it, but so he started Electronic Arts, and so then they eventually made Madden Football. So they with any kind of entertainment, you needed a face of it, so they got John Madden to be the face of it. So I don't know the intimate details of the early development of it, but I do know coming up over the years. So Chip Hawkins then left to start the company 3DO that I mentioned earlier, where I met Naughty Dog. So he started a hardware company called 3DO that failed eventually, but he they're going to make they're making a fictional, what would you call it?
it's like a historical fiction.
Historical
It's
fiction
not
of Madden coming out
like
in
a
the next year.
retelling, yeah.
Oh, a movie.
Based
Yeah.
on
A
a true
movie, so
story.
a Hollywood movie.
That would be cool.
So John, what did he say? So I'm still friends with Trip Hawkins. I mean, he's an amazing person, and I maybe talk to him once a year or something. And so he was super excited because who did I say? John Mulaney was going to play Trip Hawkins in the movie.
Oh, cool.
So Trip was really excited about that. So this is obviously exciting for him. But he's amazing. So in terms of Madden, I think the key thing that he did was he basically promoted the engineers and artists that made the games as rock stars. This kind of was his model.
He promoted the engineers
As rock stars, kind of thing. So more like making them more
as a public kind of
facing,
yeah,
and looking at them as true artists. And I think that was one of his big innovations in terms of making that eventually led to games like Madden and that kind of thing.
And
So
what do you mean by that exactly? Like I can kind of imagine that in my head, but what actually happened to those engineers, or how did people perceive them that would be different than, say, other scenarios or other developers? Like, what did he do that made them, shine?
I think treating them as artists was the core idea. As
as far as freedom goes.
well,
or,
yeah, and
like prioritizing them
and supporting them, and
I see.
so I think like with the engineers, treating them as artists, and then the artists obviously. So I think hard in retrospect, but
Yeah.
I don't think they were treated that way it was usually the origin of games was like the Atari 2600 and earlier, like the Magnavox Odyssey, these earlier ones.
Yeah.
And that was usually one person. And so I think I think his innovation also was the teamwork that they did as well. So,
like viewing the people that are helping develop it as like partners.
Yeah.
And like sort of equals in a sense that each person has like a job that's so important that, you can't like let one of them just be on the wayside.
And developing their name and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
So what do you like about Madden, and why is it so, at this point in your life, why is it so captivating?
I don't know. When I was younger, I played it and I was captivated then too. I can't remember what age I played it at, but it was probably for Sega Genesis. And I don't know what version. It was probably just the year, because Madden's like an ongoing yearly thing. And then I picked it up in PlayStation. I was like, whoa, this is like a lot. Because there's like a lot of options.
Yeah.
There's like franchise mode, head-to-head, online head-to-head. Like you could build a character mode. There's so many options. So I started playing franchise mode, and I think I like the ability to take a team, modify it, and just keep playing with it. I'm like at year 2045 now with the Bears, and I don't even have any of the current players, but I have all these dudes out of college, and they have there's game sliders in it, so you could like make people better and not.
Okay.
So like I struggled with when I first started, because I was like, this is hard, and I was like on the rookie level, and now I'm at all Madden level, which is like really hard. So I use the game sliders to make my people a little better, and then I turn them down as I get better.
Okay.
So I make it more challenging for myself, which I think is interesting that they allow, like, there's so many options to do that, because a lot of games don't allow you to like
tune the difficulty.
I mean, I think the newer games do maybe, but like as far as I remember when I was younger, there was no like, it was more like cheat codes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if that. Like I remember way back in the day, you didn't get like tutorials or anything. They just kind of dump you into an environment and like, all right, figure it out.
Yeah.
I remember playing. The last time I played Madden was on Sega Genesis. It was probably like a early '90s number or something, and it's funny that you talk about it being like a board game, but it was like being put in a board game and you don't actually know what the rules are, how to.
No one's explaining
like what
to
the best strategies are going to be. But games today are definitely a lot. There are a lot more creature comforts in it. It's an air conditioned environment.
Yes, they teach you how to play.
Do you think it allows people to get better because of the options you have now with that, versus being dropped into something with no information, but there's like a survival tactic? Or do you think either works?
I think it's probably both. It's probably more accessible to people who aren't as avid gamers, but also at the same time it lets the min-maxers among them really dial in.
I can see that. I think the same to be said with like Jiu Jitsu right now, where like Jiu Jitsu is much more friendly to the public. And I wasn't practicing in the 90s, but what I've heard about it, and then someone who started Jiu Jitsu like 2000, probably closer to 2010, I've seen the difference between when new people join now. And I would say it's easy, but it's much more like, accepting for someone to come in because they have a pathway given to them.
Yeah.
And a long time ago, it was just straight up survival. Like if you're just dumb enough to come back, not even the next day or month, but if you're dumb enough to come back for a couple of years, you'd get better.
Okay.
And then maybe like 5 years in, people will start showing you things and acknowledging you, and like,
so there's a curriculum now for it.
Yeah.
I think every space or school has a different curriculum, right?
Yeah, it gets kind of weird because like even now sort of curriculums are being discouraged because people can sometimes pay to advance by passing the tests, studying the tests. Although there's like an argument to be said for like having no curriculum. I think is probably bad too, because it, if it doesn't tell you what you should know in 5 years versus what you know now, I think that's also a bad thing. But I have come over to the other side. Like I have come to the dark side of thinking that like paying for stripe tests or paying your way into a belt or like memorizing your way into a belt is a bad thing. So I think that the curriculum is like the secondary thing. And I think being on the mat with good people and like really investing yourself and your coach investing themselves into you, I think is probably where I would lean now. So,
I mean, because what you're talking about is like actually from artificial intelligence, which is reinforcement learning, where you give rewards for approximations of the right behavior. So the only risk there is if you don't have a reward structure, then it's hard to make progress.
Yeah.
So it's not like the curriculum guarantees a reward. So if you don't have a curriculum, but your coaches are good and there's a reward, then you can do it.
Yeah. The situation has to be right. Like, because I think if there's no rewards, I probably wouldn't have kept going either. But I agree.
The structure is probably part. I am hypothesizing here that people are probably getting better faster in jiu-jitsu than they ever have before.
Yeah.
And part of it probably is around having sort of this infrastructure for, okay, we move you to this level, and then we move you to this level, and people are advancing very quickly, or can advance very quickly if they're into it. But at the same time, there's probably a little bit of like a cookie cutter sort of phenomena that happens where if you're not careful, you are only defined by what the curriculum, like your ability as a jiu-jitsu artist is only what the curriculum has given you, instead of like you had to struggle and kind of like do your own kind of personal development to develop your own style. And you're more you're better equipped to adapt to unfamiliar scenarios.
Definitely. And Bill, you brought up like the reward system in regards to AI. Like what would be the reverse of that? Like, because we're kind of talking about it in the jiu-jitsu sense, which is like, pretty practical just for like the layman, I guess, or whatever. But like for AI or like computer science side, or like what would the rewards be for AI or someone who's like involved in developing or like doing software, like well, like what, I'm not sure if you know what I'm asking, but
I think I get what you're asking.
Yeah.
So a lot of these, like the most recent kind of family of large language model systems, they have a neural net, which is basically a bunch of numbers in a graph, which is a bunch of connected dots. And you pass some information through it and you get some information at the end. And so the reward mechanism is like you've got some target that you want at the end based on some input, like you've got some input-output pair that you're expecting the system to create.
I didn't realize that that's what I was after, even though I'm trying to get information, but I didn't realize it's set up.
Am I getting close to sort of what you're...
Yeah.
So you compare like the output that you expect to the output that you got, and the closer that is sort of your reward function. The closer you get, the more you get rewarded. And so then the neural net sort of changes its numbers and its connections in the graph to sort of accommodate that. But then what happens after that, so it's kind of called pre-training, but then they'll release the system for humans to use. And you'll often see sort of like a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of feature in a chat interface.
Yeah.
And so if you submit your message to the LLM, which is they call prompting, the LLM will offer a completion of that, because mostly the LLMs these days can kind of be thought of as an autocomplete, like a very sophisticated autocomplete. Or if you've gone to Google and type in like a couple of words, it'll give you like the next 6 most likely things that you're going to say. It's basically that, only it just picks the top thing all the time, and it continues to do that for itself. And it makes this completion of your prompt. But then a user will come in and they'll thumbs up it or thumbs down it, and that will be sort of a reward metric. So the more it gets thumbs up, the more it will give you outputs that are like the things that got thumbs up versus the things that got thumbs down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's really crazy about that too is that, like, I think it's a pretty common thing, I would assume, but everyone kind of imagines AI being like the singular thing, and then the way you're describing it actually makes me realize how involved we are with it. Like, meaning like it's not its own thing that's acting on its own volition. Like we're giving it information to change its own habits.
Oh yeah. And this was an issue maybe a year and a half ago, and it's the labs are getting it under control these days. But there used to be a really big problem with sycophancy in these chat systems because they will basically tell you, because of the way their reward structure works, people would thumbs up things where the AI makes them feel good. And so the AI would just like change its own sort of behavior to like just try to make you feel good.
That's strange.
Yeah, it's weird times in AI.
Yeah, interesting. And I wanted to ask you, and I think we could probably get into the Iliad thing that you mentioned earlier, but there was something that I noticed the other day that was in the news that was basically like an AI danger kind of thing, because that's like a big part of all of this is that everyone is worried about it, and not just everyone, but even the people that are on the higher levels, like the people that are involved in developing it,
yeah.
working on it, and government, things like that. And there's a guy, I'm not sure if maybe you guys can correct me on saying his name, but his name is Narek Sharma, but he worked for OpenAI, and he recently resigned, mostly because he felt like the direction that they were heading was like a world in peril situation. That was why he claimed he resigned.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, I can imagine what that is, but I don't really know exactly, and maybe you guys don't either, but I wanted to see like what dangers you guys were aware of, or if you guys had any concerns about it, or if there was even any discussion about it, or if it's just like, I feel like maybe when the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a lot of people that were afraid of that too. I'm trying to figure out, like, is this a real fear, or is this just the next like chapter, you know what I mean, of like civilization that people were worried about because it's uncertain, and we didn't have a relationship with these things before, and now we do.
Yeah. So, well, I think the first thing is you have to split the conversation into subdomains of what you mean by the danger of it. But I would go back. Well, if you look at technology, what I think the first move you have to make is you have to understand how humans operate, and I think that's until you really understand that, it's hard to have a conversation about how technology impacts you. So I can give you some examples. So back, and this is from an author whose name escapes me, but they would talk about these phases of Greek theater, and then the Greek theater taught people how to emote. So the idea being that, like, before Greek theater, there wasn't necessarily a mechanism for them externally to figure out how to emote, in terms of tragedy, for example. So the model you have to build of what humans is that we're a combination of us now and the situation. So, for example, you're a function of you in playing Madden, or you're a function of you in playing Jiu Jitsu or rolling or whatever. So that's the model, is that ongoingly throughout history that we get appropriated by whatever context we're in. So what appropriation means is there's a part where we lose agency in it taking us over. So the easy way to think of it is, if you play with a dog knows how much to bite you without hurting you. So they have that same quality of knowing how to role play given the situation. So, and I think I can go right to the Iliad then to show you the whole point of the Iliad, Homer, which is one of the first written books, is the danger is being captured without any sort of sense of agency. So in the Iliad, basically, Helen gets captured by the Trojans, and then the fight is all about that capture. And then Achilles gets captured by his own desire for a bride. and he doesn't have any consciousness. And so then he retreats from the battle, and it causes all sorts of problems. So that what I'm trying to say is the real core issue is we're always, from the beginning of the first book, always being captured by something, if that makes sense. And so,
Yep.
so the question now becomes, how much is AI going to capture us as humans and that kind of thing? And so, and so then back to the technology, specifically, we were captured for the last 10 years by Google and keywords.
Attention economy.
Attention economy, but if you think about keywords are paid words. And so for us to be like, oh, Google was great, why is it better than AI? All of the Google keywords is just a rank, and then that rank are paid for. So if I look up coffee, what's going to show up is what's ever popular, and whatever's
Paid
popular
ads, yeah.
is paid ads. But even the organic results itself is also based on popularity, which is then based on money. So the AI revolution is freeing us from that technology into a new one. So what I would say is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's good or bad with AI, how I think of it. It's just a transition from knowledge that's been paid without us even knowing it to now it's more probabilistic knowledge. And some of that probabilistic knowledge is often inaccurate, but it's a liberation in a sense of being captured by that. If that is this making some progress? Or...
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a really cool way to look at it. I never really realized that we were or are interacting with like search engines in that way.
Yeah, it's the core idea that technology always. So you have to think of the book as a technology. It shaped us to say it's good to sit down by yourself and read. For a lot of people, that's not normal. So that's why we have this problem with schools about attention deficit disorder. It's not that. It's just that there are some people who rather be rolling on the mat doing Jiu Jitsu than sitting by themselves reading a book. The book itself is a technology, right?
Yeah.
And then it forces a certain form of behavior, a form of life. And the life is to be by yourself in a book. But that form of life isn't for everybody. And so that's a tech. But then society says, oh, you must learn how to read. It's not necessarily true. So every technology enforces a new form of life. And so this is just a new form of a life that's emerging from AI. And so now there's dangers with it. And that's where we can circle back to this, what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where, and this sort of jumps ahead. Well, I can tell you what Homer solutions. So if you just look at, again, Iliad as the problem of being captured, then what's the solution? So in the book, what happens is he gives his armor. So he's out of the battle. So he gives his armor to his friend named Patroclus. Very good. And then Patroclus goes and fights and then basically dies. In some sense, it's like a symbolic death. And that symbolic death sort of wakes up Achilles to kind of re-engage with the battle. And then that's kind of the Homer solution, that you need some sort of symbolic external thing that you identify with. And then that becomes a way for you to engage with the huge system of life that's always appropriating you. So it's really these two things, that something is always appropriating us all the time. And so what we saw over the last 10 years is ads and things are appropriating us without us even knowing.
Yeah.
So I think someone calls it the digital unconscious, that that there's ongoingly things shaping us on our phone or ads or whatever, that we're not even conscious of that they're shaping us. Right. So that first thing is you have to wake up to that digital unconscious and then be like, okay, so the way out from Homer is you need to have some sort of external double that becomes sacrificial, that allows you to then have some agency to work with the things that are appropriating you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about that. Like, just, how much we are unaware.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah. Can I ask a question about AI? So going back to like what you said about the search engines and keywords, so that kind of molds us without any input from me as a user, because that's just going through popularity and through paid ads. Now, for instance, if I'm using like ChatGPT to do a search for something, I feel like, or you could probably answer this better than like what I think, but from what I'm understanding is that it will give you answers unbiased to paid ads and popularity, and more, if it learns from you, it'll give you more answers based on your previous searches through the AI.
Yeah, well, there's two parts.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there is a part where you can integrate your own preference. So that would be the first thing. It does have a memory.
Okay.
So it does remember your previous search, which is nice. Whereas with Google, every time you're doing it, it's stateless. So AI can remember your state and then refer back to it when it's creating new answers. But standalone itself, then the way the knowledge is created is, and Justin can probably speak to it and as well, but much better maybe than me. But it's basically with AI, it basically transforms all the knowledge into like a vector space. And so then it can, once it's transformed into this space, it can then begin to reason about it to see what's the right answer versus a keyword, which is just ranked on popularity.
Okay.
So it's learned to like take concepts and knowledge and represent it numerically into a sort of a 3D space that then it can make a probabilistic guess as to what the right answer is. And then that's why you talk about hallucinations all the time, because it's more probabilistic based. And so that's how it's operating independent of you. But then it can then factor in, if you had some previous knowledge that it has a memory for you, then you can reintegrate it. But just think about it. Now you can have a conversation where it remembers what you said, which is,
yes.
And that's really important for me to emphasize, is that that's a huge revolution. We should celebrate that we're going away from Google keywords and being captured by that technology in terms of, and now being captured by a new technology that's
that is
better.
sycophantic in nature.
Well, yeah. So he mentioned sycophant because, when you start to talk to the AI, it's going to compliment you. And so I'm not saying there's not any risk in being captured by this new technology, but I mean, that's what we can tease out. It's like, what can we do to solve the capture by AI? But what I would say is there's definitely this progress where we're being captured by a more human technology with AI than the keyword technology, which was more business, being captured by a business.
I would be the downer here and suggest that we're very early in the sort of LLM agentic sort of AI wave. When Google was early, it was also pretty what's the term? It was a beneficial kind of thing for a lot of people. And it wasn't until they sort of figured out like how to do Dutch auctions and ads when it sort of sent us on this trajectory where we were being captured by advertising dollars more than sort of our pursuit of knowledge on the internet. These systems will also probably get captured by moneyed interests. And the challenge is that because they are so humane, they will be even more effective than trending
Google.
keywords.
Yeah.
And they'll have infinite time and infinite intelligence to kind of try to target you to get you to do specific things, spend your money in specific ways, what have you. And even right now, in terms of it being like I think at the end of the day, the most valuable thing is to appreciate the opportunity and the tendency for corporate interests to try to manipulate consumers.
Yes.
Be aware of that going into everything. Like if it's YouTube, if it's social media, if it's AI, like just be aware that those factors are out there.
And it happens frequently.
It's kind of like what the economy currently runs on. Is that this is going to be incredibly powerful technology. You're going to want to know how to use it, but be aware that there's a Wizard of Oz behind the scenes who's trying to conduct things in a certain way. And it is really good that you can have these systems sort of specialized to your interests. But at the end of the day, a lot of how they behave is sort of the average of everything that it has read about on the internet. And it's also going to be using its inputs a lot of the time, doing real-time searches for information that you're looking for to kind of, they call it grounding, to try to avoid hallucination, which is when it tells you something that can't really be verified or is factually incorrect. So it will do like a search, find a bunch of web pages, read all those web pages, summarize them, synthesize a bunch of information, and then give you the completion to your prompt, the response to the question that you ask it.
Yeah.
And so there's still an extent to which all of the information that's already out on the internet that was sort of driven by SEO and keywords, search engine optimization and keywords, and, social media and questionable news sources, all that stuff is still in there, and it's still going to kind of make its way out the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, and the one thing that I was thinking about too, because when I originally reached out to you and Bill, is you and I were talking one day about flow state.
Yeah.
Right. And I was kind of curious while you're explaining all this is, do you think that there will be some kind of interaction between like AI and like us as humans, like in the way we go to create things, like not just like video games or like software, but just like, like my gym brand or Matt's clothing company or like whatever. Do you think that there would be like some kind of interaction at some point where there's like a mutual flow state between AI and like the way that we get into a groove, like where they can sort of like intercept off of each other, or AI sort of like can recognize if you're in that groove and capitalize off of it? Do you think that those will be two parallel things at some point?
I would imagine so. I don't know exactly how that would manifest yet. I am certain that there have been times when I've been in flow just doing as a software developer programming.
Yeah.
I haven't quite gotten there, or I haven't experienced it so frequently that I have identified it, that I get that same kind of flow experience when I'm working with an agentic partner in programming.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that there are developers who do. And if you're the kind of person who gets into flow writing, or like if you're writing promotional material or whatever, I'm sure that you can probably go back and forth with an agentic writer, and it will create an experience for you that puts you in a flow state working with it on any other kind of
goes back to maybe that complimentary thing that you were talking about earlier, where like, it'll tell you things you want to hear. If you're in flow, maybe it'll add on to what you already have going on.
Like keeping you motivated while you're
or like be like, this is a great idea. This is a great idea.
You're killing it. Right?
I guess whether or not it is or not. But and Bill, you had messaged me and said there was, and this is what you mentioned earlier, but is it Maclocine? Was that what you were saying?
Oh, yeah. And you're going to have to unpack.
So I wanted to get into that a little bit because, well, like Matt was reading over the notes this morning. He goes, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "Yo, that's a Bill thing. I have no idea." But you were talking about how there's like sort of like a consciousness and a structure aspect of it.
Yeah, no.
And I wanted to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, just a quick background. But so I taught a course in fall on the Iliad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did all this research, and there's a new translation from author Emily Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end, she has a translation of Maclocine. It's Machlosyne. And the reason she brought up this translation is because normally you think of the Iliad as Helen. It's about Paris, who was part of the Trojans, capturing or winning from the gods Helen. And so then the whole thing becomes it's about Helen. But in the original Greek, it was actually that Paris wins Maclocine. And what is that? So her translation of it is basically how to do it in a PG way, but it literally means like female desire. So he wins female desire, not Helen. And so why is that important is because it sort of opens up the so he's being captured by desire not being captured by the woman per se, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So that's the core thing when I was referring back to what we're being captured by. So ultimately, it's just being captured by desire of another, essentially. And so then why? And so it's very topical because if you think about like what's in the news and certain big figures give up their whole career to be captured by the desire of other women. And I'm trying to not be too specific about it, but it becomes a foundational thing that people will give up honor, status, and everything for this desire.
Yes.
And so that's what's so groundbreaking about this insight is like when you look at these people that give up their career, their status for this desire, it's like it doesn't make sense. You could just become a rock star and you get the same thing. So what's so fundamental about this desire? And I think that's what Homer explains is when you see this translation. And I think you can see it in like rap music, right? So if you listen to a lot of the newer rap music, I'm kind of old school. I like the Grandmaster Flash when it wasn't so extreme in the lyrics.
Yeah.
But the newer rap, it's like very extreme. And I'm like, there's got to be something fundamental where this resonates with people. And that speaks to Macrocine too, as sort of this visceral desire that captures us. So I think that's what's happening is that there's this force of visceral desire that captures us that we're not even aware of. And so these really sort of big figures give up status and honor. So if you look at the Iliad, it's all about status and honor. And yet Achilles gives it up because his bride is taken. And so his desire he'll give up all of his status and desire for it. So I think that's the core. By doing this, Emily Wilson's sort of opening up this translation to this concept of macrocine. And then what's the way out? So the way out is to wake up to this capture. And then there's two other words. So this speaks to then also with Justin's concept of like, what's the promise of AI? If we can come up with what I call a digital twin that can fight the digital unconscious, then it'll be this external symbol that can keep us from being captured, right? So at the end, the way the book ends is basically Achilles is basically kills this character Hector, and then the father comes, Priam, to ask for his body, and normally Achilles would have just killed him, but instead there's this moment where he identifies with Priam as an external, that he's a father and has a moment of sort of compassion, and the way out is his awareness of an other through this, and then he gives the body back, and then it ends on that note. So I think it's a hopeful thing that he's able to be freed of being captured, right? So at the beginning of the book, he's captured by external desire, macrocine, and by the end, by identifying, having compassion with someone else, he's able to free it. And I think it speaks to Jiu Jitsu, right? That like you're speaking like the brotherhood and being together.
Yeah.
And it's just the ritualistic practice of it. And I think ritual is the other part, right? That you do a ritualistic practice.
Ritual.
Yeah.
Why do you say ritual?
That's Matt's clothing
That's my
brand.
clothing brand.
That's your what?
My clothing brand
is ritual.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect connection. Yeah. So the key is we have to begin to realize that we're always being captured and that you need to do these rituals that continually help free us. If you don't, you get captured and you don't even know. I mean, I think that's why all these tragic stories of all these figures in today's society, they're being captured by these things they don't even have awareness.
Like in a weird flow state with their good or bad decisions, essentially.
Yeah, it's literally like it just takes them over. And I think that's what Homer's speaking to. And I think we've lost that for some reason over the years, I mean, you can see it in Christianity for sure. I was thinking about that, like Jesus, this idea of Jesus died for us on a personal level. So there's definitely that angle for sure. And then, but there's a secondary one, which is the mystic Christianity, which is where you don't need necessarily an external figure like Christ, but you can do do it yourself. So a more secular version of it.
I kind of dig that.
So
I feel like that's easier for like people to look at Christianity or religion in like a realistic sense, where they don't have to commit like in a dogmatic way to every single thing, whether you do or don't believe. It's just kind of like, and it also blends with other belief systems too.
Yeah, for sure. I think
It's strange. That doesn't resonate with me because I was raised Catholic and it was like pushed down my throat, you know?
So was I.
So it's like, I mean, it makes sense, but it's like, I can't imagine being raised that way. You know what I mean?
raised what way?
Like
Where
a mystic,
like a mystic.
So actually, I was Catholic too, so I have a good story. So so there's this the mystic they can't do the mystic because it's not scalable. That's why they don't do it. So, and I went to the St. John of the Cross and St. John of the grade school, and
Okay.
St. John of the Cross was a Catholic mystic, and so and it turned out my nuns that actually taught were mystics.
Okay.
But they never showed any of it. So it's basically what happens is there's sort of two worlds. There's the mystic world and then there's the traditional world.
Okay.
And the traditional world is what we normally need. The mystic world is very specific and individualistic. So when they were teaching, they couldn't do any of the mystic stuff. They just had to go by the book,
Right.
Catholic practice. But then outside of it, they could be more mystic.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so the mystic is where you allow anything. So you allow drinking, you allow all these different things. So I actually then went to Notre Dame, and that was my big mistake. Was I went to Notre Dame as like, oh, you have to follow all these rules. So I was the good Catholic, but then everyone there was drinking and having conjugal visits, and I wasn't having any of those. And I'm like, wait a minute, how do you reconcile this? And it's basically that Notre Dame's interesting because they had this great Father Hesper.
Okay.
Who advised John F. K. at the time, and so he was great because he was more liberal. And so, for example, when he created the Notre Dame Press, the Catholic Church told him not to publish anything liberal, but he said, "I'm going to publish liberal things in the Notre Dame Press, and then you can get rid of me if you don't let me." And so they bowed down to him. So the nice thing with Notre Dame, then eventually I became to appreciate it, was there's a way of Catholicism that makes room for the sort of more mystic tradition, and it's going on all the time. It's just that it's not scalable in terms of so I think the hope then with AI, circling back to AI, is it's a technology that can make mystic scalable. That's my
When you say
hope.
scalable, is this kind of the same thing that's happening in the jiu-jitsu scene where like they've got a curriculum and you stick to the curriculum because that is how we know how to move lots of people through a system effectively. But in order to really like get the most out of jiu-jitsu, you kind of have to go off curriculum.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as much about it, but I would imagine, that each student has to have their own custom thing, right?
Yep.
And they have their
100%.
custom strengths, their custom weaknesses.
Same thing with lifting, right?
Yeah. Same
Like,
thing.
Yeah. So
yeah, everything, I guess. But,
so that's where you have a sort of a custom out through it. So so the problem with making it scalable. So in order to do a mystic, you basically need an Obi-Wan Kenobi for every person.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not scalable. But the promise of AI is now you can have a scalable mystic coach. And that's kind of where I see the hope. And then that can fight the digital unconscious, where all these companies, because the digital, your mystic avatar can intervene in the digital unconscious, and it also can then give you the feedback that's free of ideology, free of those kind of things. So yeah,
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because definitely in terms of like the opportunity of AI, that I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is that yes, the external influences that don't necessarily have your best interests in mind and are more interested in their own enrichment are going to be out there, and they're going to be stronger than ever. But also now more than ever, you will have some ability to cultivate your own sort of really powerful
Defense towards it.
that can act as a firewall kind of between you and the attention economy that had overwhelmed us kind of in the last decade.
Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about too, I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you, but talking about you were like the mystic version, you're like, it's hard to imagine, you know, and it's hard to like.
Well, I think
so
I
tell
think
me,
I think once you
curious.
explained it more, it made sense because I had my own mystic versions of Catholicism too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Like
know
I
you
was
guys are
I
friends
was
too.
yeah I was
Tell me.
drinking in high school, and I was
Mm.
you know I didn't start sex stuff until I was like 21, but I was I wasn't married.
Yeah.
You know, so I had my own versions of it. I guess I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, I would
meant
say,
by
no, it's good. So if we go back to the Iliad, then at the end, you have to have two qualities. You have to have awareness. So when you're drinking in high school, you don't have that awareness. And so
I feel like I have always had awareness for when I'm like danger awareness.
okay. Yeah. So okay, sure. So,
Well, that's just me though. So, but
Yeah.
some people don't. Yes.
So awareness and then compassion, which is the motivation. So you need motivation where you benefit of others. If you're motivated for you with your awareness, then that's the problematic. So that's the ending scene of the Iliad, where he's doing something motivated by the compassion for the other person.
Okay.
So that if your motivations isn't in line with that, then that's where you're captured again.
Got it.
So this is well, we can come out of the closet in terms of, I have a Tibetan Buddhist background, so which is very mystic, and these principles are the core of Tibetan Buddhism, where you're always motivated. You have awareness, and that awareness means that you're being captured. So you're saying, I want to be captured by not my own ego, but I want to be captured by sort of the Buddhist thought. And then secondarily, my motivation is to benefit all beings. And then you have to ongoingly do it. It's not, and that's the trick, is you're basically, to do it, you have to be an ongoing gardener. You have to be ongoingly cultivating. I mean, you'll see that in Christ all the time too, as he talks about you're ongoingly, doing ongoingly good. It's a practice that mystic is a practice. So if that
totally makes
helps
sense.
Yeah.
fill out the mystic issue. So
And my weird thing is that like the household I grew up in was a Catholic household, but it was more unspoken expectations. Like my parents weren't, like shoving religion down our throats, and we generally went to church on Sunday, but it wasn't like a daily thing that wasn't like the mainstay of our household. But my parents were strict enough and disciplined enough, and I think they were raised in such a way that it was an unspoken thing where you kind of you understood what's going on. Yeah.
It's in the air.
Yeah. And it still is like a part of me. Like I'm 42 years old and it's still a part of me. Even though my religious views or whatever are very strange. So like I would say Catholicism is like my foundation, but then like, I grew up in punk and metal scene for 20 years. So as you can imagine, that gets really weird. There's a lot of like satanic aspects of that, like whether it's people are serious or not serious. But then like when I went to school, I had a philosophy professor who was an atheist, but his favorite theologians were definitely Christians, right? But it's just based on their argument alone. So that was very confusing because I looked up to that guy. And then like when I went to a different university, I had a professor who taught philosophy of religion. He was a Catholic priest, but like opening day was like, hey, I'm 80, I think he was 84. He was like, I have no idea what's going on. He's like, I've been a priest for, 35 years, 40 years. He's like, I have no idea what's happening. He goes, I'm just a committed individual. That's just what he said. So anyways, like fast forward to now, like I have all my background as a kid and then like my schooling and then music influences. And I feel like I'm really mystical, like Christian or whatever with Buddhist parts, because my wife, I would say, is more into Buddhism. So there's a lot of like things going on there.
Well, I think, who was the name of the guy who said, I'm a committed individual? What was his name?
I can't remember. He was a priest at St. Ambrose University.
That's what I'm advocating for.
Yeah.
So it's not about, and this is actually, I was looking it up recently. There's another philosopher named Zizek, Zizek, and he's influenced by Lacan, and Lacan had the same idea that there is no essential self, and all there is commitment to an external identity. So the fact that he said that, he nailed it.
So there's no self, it's just commitment to an external.
Yes. And what was your nickname?
Oh, Scotty. When I was a kid, we talked about that.
No, I said, I gave you the answer already.
Yeah.
So you have it, like, cause look how you laugh.
Yeah.
And you say Scotty, so that creates a vector for you from here you are now, and it's happy, it's joyful, it's and then that's the committed individual.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell. So Zizek was talking about this from basically he was influenced by Lacan and Hegel, but to me it's the same thing that um that Homer was saying too, is the way out is to have this external the identification with an external commitment. Like that's why I said committed.
Mhm.
It's a commitment to an external thing, and then you create yourself that way. It's in going back to my PlayStation work. My name in the PlayStation work is Angus Guschwan because Angus was my nickname.
Yeah. How did that come about? Because whenever
Yeah.
Justin says that or texts me your name,
Yeah.
I'm always like,
Well,
how did that come about?
it's pretty well. So basically, I was working at Apple Computer, and then I would write on my board my last name. I was really into like language and this philosopher Jacques Derrida
Yeah.
play with words.
Yeah.
And so I wrote Guschwan, 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 and then people started circling words out of it.
Yeah.
And then the last word that was left was Angus, but it's from my last name, Guschwan, Angus.
I see. Okay.
So then people call me Angus.
It's an Ouroboros. Okay.
Yeah, it's an Ouroboros to tally my last name. But the thing was, it empowered me because now, like one of the stories was there was, we did the launch of the PlayStation in LA at E3, a conference called E3. So there were signs that said, "Welcome to LA." And I said, "Oh, that's Lord Angus. I'm a Lord now." And I said, "It's welcome to Lord Angus." So I would just create all of this fictional stuff.
Yeah.
And then some people took it, I was just always meant it in a playful, constructive way. Some people thought I was being literally arrogant.
Like an
which maybe-
asshole. That's
Pretty
the
much.
great part about it is that like the name Angus, that's the way it sounds.
Yeah.
You could take it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hear that name and think of you and what I know about you and your
Yeah.
intelligence level with that. It's kind of ironic all on its
Yeah.
own. Then you put Lord behind it.
Yeah.
And people,
And you're like, what?
people think you're like,
Well, and-
stuck on yourself.
And
But
so going back to your theologian who said, "I'm just committed to myself." I mean, that's where he got through it. He nailed it. And so he didn't tell you anything. He was just owning him.
Yep.
And that's it. What Zizek talks about, what Homer talks about. So it's all, when you have an external double, then it's possible. And I think, so that's the salvation with AI is we'll be able to do it at scale. That's what's possible now that wasn't possible before, is we were just completely under the control of Google.
yeah.
And because we had no agency, now we have this tool that can bring us back to having an external, so they call them digital twins. I don't think we talked about it, but in industrial work, you can make a digital twin. The easiest example is Apollo 13. Did you watch the movie where basically there's a problem? They had a simulated capsule at NASA, and they ran through all the power checks on that. That's a digital twin. So they had a digital twin of the capsule, so they could run a simulation as they changed the power settings to see if it would work. So in industry, there's a thing called digital twin. So what I look at now is more digital personal twin or a digital human twin, where now I have a twin that's out there in the world advocating for me and providing the commitments that I want. So you can create it so that it has the commitments to you. So you should have a digital twin called Scotty that then, so then you begin to relate to the world through that, not through you.
You put that kind of like out in the environment and test how it functions in the environment, kind of like Apollo.
Well, yeah, it can test, but it's also a way for you to symbolically connect to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I have to share this other story, and it's related to the Iliad too. So we'll explain it and come full circle. So I was in a seminar like this where we were talking with people on the Iliad, actually at Notre Dame, where they were doing the Great Book Seminar. And I had this insight, like you had that insight, that like you're just a function of your parents. And so we were supposed to say what we thought about the Iliad. And I said, I went to my teacher, and she was a great teacher. And I said, she's like, "What's the Iliad about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this fable about how to live your life. And it's a fable how to deal with your anger." So I go to class and I say, "The Iliad is about life," and everyone laughed. And I meant it in this really deep, like philosophical way. They just thought I was being an ass.
So
by making a joke. Yeah.
They thought you were dumbing it down?
Yeah.
Is that why
they
they
just thought I was trying to be kind of funny.
Flippant.
And so they started laughing. But in the moment, I was like, I don't exist. Because what I realized was.
Why?
Because
that wasn't what you intended on.
Yeah.
And so in the moment, I could see
That's so funny and strange, but I get what you're saying.
I could see the doubling immediately. I'm like, oh, they're creating an identity in the moment of, right? That's not me. I mean this. Oh, And by the way, this happens all the time. Never. You're always being created in the moment, 24/7.
Yeah.
And so that's this idea of that we don't have a true essence is basically the point. And so this is in Buddhism, they call emptiness. So that my subject is empty of an essentialness. My object as me as an object is empty. Like, so their interpretation of me is empty. My interpretation of myself is empty, right? That's the subject object emptiness. And anything I do is also empty. So it's this neutral emptiness. So then what do? You go back to the theologian, you commit to Scotty, you commit to yourself. And then that's what the way out of the emptiness. But then every time you then commit to Scotty, you got to let it go. So it's this ongoing, like momentary constructing, letting go, momentary constructing, letting go. And then that's the way out.
That's one of the things that I still get a little bit confused about in my limited understanding of Buddhism is that you're supposed to let go, is my understanding. But how then do you orient without holding on to something?
Well, it's for them that it goes back to your motivation is
Oh,
benefit of all beings.
okay, that's kind of like the approved.
Yeah.
the approved
So
anchor.
and I can
All
explain.
right.
It's actually quite simple. Your normal operating system as a human is your ego.
Okay, yeah,
And
that's the
ego-
default setting.
Right. And
Yeah.
ego is not necessarily good or bad. It does a lot of good things for us. It keeps us alive and we should benefit ourselves. It's just that then we get captured.
Right.
So it's really, we get captured by our ego and then you bring it to everywhere. And then that's what causes problems. So when you are able to just be aware and then let go and then replace it with benefit for other beings every moment, like every moment, how can I benefit other beings? So if you look at all the great lamas, they're always sending wishes to others all the time. Because why? Because they're always trying to
It's the practice.
get rid of being captured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just always giving up, always giving up, always giving up. So it's not like, so you want to use the ego, it gives you good things, but then you let go of it.
Okay.
And so like here's an example. You get angry, and this has been a lot of the work I've done on myself recently over the last years, is my relationship to anger. And then what you have to realize is when anger comes up, a lot of times it's the ego. The issue isn't the insight. The insight of the anger is actually really, really powerful. You see clearly. It's called mirror-like wisdom. But then what happens? You cling, and now you act like an asshole. And now you start, right? It's not the insight, it's the clinging to it.
Yeah.
So like
There's signal in that noise.
there's signal, right? So like when your partner does something bad to you, it's like, oh, there's a miscommunication with us. Okay. Now I'm going to make it about her, and then you attack. And now your life's, but as opposed to, oh, we have a miscommunication. I need to calmly talk to my partner later to explain our different values, but it's hard to get there. So it's the clinging that causes the problem. So if in that moment you can be like, oh, we have a communication problem, you let go, and then later you can revisit it.
Yeah.
Now you're good to go. So, and then that's the mysticism, where mysticism says, back to your point about when you were drinking in college and stuff, is you were probably clinging at some level at some point. And so that's the part about when I was saying about awareness. It's okay, like if you're in high school drinking in that sense of a mystic thing, but it's the clinging to the experiences that causes the problems for in Buddhist sort of thing.
And do you think that's why, like, when people get into arguments, they're like so hot-headed and they, overreact, say things they don't mean, and then later, whether it's hours or days, like you come back down to earth, you realize like how you actually felt, and a lot of times it doesn't align with how you acted.
Yeah.
And even if you were in the right, now you actually are in the wrong, and
Correct.
you have to fix it or apologize. And
That's right.
It kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah,
of
there's
that.
there's two elements to it. Is that one, you act on it, and that's causes all these so this is what they call karma, right? So
Yeah.
but karma just means activity. Literally. So we think of it as moralistically, but karma is just activity. So the problem is you do activity, but then that activity you do reverberates. So then it becomes karma in the sense of we have negative thing, but the activity in itself isn't necessarily bad.
Yeah.
And then the second part is you also then don't let go of the emotion in the moment. So you ruminate about it.
Yeah.
So there's the two parts of it. And so it's both your rumination about it. So if you can just be in the moment, you feel it and let it through, that solves that. And then don't act on it. Or if you act on it with the insight of what needs to be acted on.
Yeah.
So this is what they call, for the mystic, they use this term Vajra, which is just like a symbolic essence of it. So for me, it's been this idea of Vajra anger, like working with my anger to be like, how is my anger out to help me? And then distinguish it from my activity or my clinging to it.
Yeah.
So if you can free yourself of the clinging to it, if you can not act on it, you'll then have this golden nugget that will benefit you. So that's the
Yeah.
mysticism, is that anger is not good or bad or anything. And that's where, there's these authors like Nietzsche, Beyond Good and Evil,
Yeah.
where he's like, oh, there's not good and evil. Right. So that's what this is talking about. And so it's just, but
Yeah.
there is, and you can get beyond good and evil, but you have to the motivation has to be correct, and you have to have skillful means to do it.
Yeah, like use it for like being sharp or aware or
Correct.
inspired
And motivated. I mean, I think this word motivation, so it's like, where's the impulse coming from? So I think this goes back to karma, right? Like, is your activity motivated for the benefit of others, or is your activity motivated for yourself? And not even yourself, it's you're clinging to yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the problem for most of us, myself included, is that, you get stuck with you think you're being motivated for others, but it's actually you're motivated for clinging for yourself.
Yeah, like if you think about it, like you were talking about like college and all that stuff, you know, and I was thinking about like, I don't know, somewhere around college, but more like post-college, and like growing up in hardcore and metal and going to shows and kind of just causing chaos and, like, yeah, but that was like maybe that was like post me, growing up. That was like, I don't know, like a pit stop from me, like being my actual self, and ended up kind of like getting siditracked and all these different elements that I thought were so important.
Well, but again, I mean, I think the stuff I've been talking about is this is back to the Zizek Lacan model. They would argue there is no self.
Yeah.
There is no actual self. There's just ongoing. That's why I was trying. That's why I was trying to get back to you. Is that I would say that we all have a certain spark. It's what you're committed to. It's back to your theologian.
Yeah.
See, this is your mystic world. Like, you have all these non-player characters in your life giving you the answer. It's just you don't realize they were giving you the answer in the moment. So the theologian was giving you the answer.
Yeah.
I'm just committed to myself, but you couldn't process it now. And then for me, like the thing with Scotty, like it's the same thing. I mean, I guess it's the same thing for me too. Like losing connection with Angus and that identity. I mean, that's one of the things I like being with Justin. Is Justin, like, not all of my friends know about Angus or refer to it. So whenever he invokes my name Angus, then it creates a different identity for me all the time. So there's this idea of invocation of it. Anyway, but just if you're following this thing, is the Zizek, Lacan, that there isn't, and that's emptiness. And to be honest, it goes back to the Buddhism, that there is no subject, there is no. So that was my experience with the Iliad, where I'm like, it's about life and everyone, and then I'm like, oh, we don't have an essential. And if I can follow up on that too, was I went through a pretty dark depression from that, because in that moment I gave up this sort of idea of what I thought what success was, and then I and the moment itself wasn't painful. It was just then ego clinging. I'm like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And so it caused lots of suffering. So it's really, Buddhism says that the suffering is caused by clinging. And at the time I didn't have enough, I needed like a shaman to explain what ego clinging was, so then I just had this cascading of thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I think out of that, actually, the secret is all in my life. The only thing then that I think got me through that depression was when I created Angus. And then it became this solid, reliable structure that freed me from clinging, because it was always this ongoing creation. Yeah. And then just to follow up,
that was like your creative name, right? That was
the ongoing commitment. And then that's so we could circle back to this writing that I've also done. We had talked about this 20th century philosopher Heidegger, who has this sort of thing to it, but he ended up being captured by Nazism. So he had this insight that emptiness is there. So the problem is he understood emptiness. So in the 20th century, he was the first Western philosopher to bring in emptiness into philosophy, and everyone thought it was the most amazing thing. And then he got captured by Nazism.
How did that happen?
Because he didn't have a double. An individual double.
That became
His double became, you see, if you don't have, that's why Scotty is so important to you.
I see what you're
is
saying.
because when I say to you, Scotty, it's your.
Yeah.
And
you made it. It's
not me. It's not me
Wow.
projecting Scotty onto you. It's me encouraging you in your individuality, which includes your background and your stories. And so what happened with Heidegger was he got captured by ideology. And then this was this great Hannah Arendt. So this great.
Kind of makes me think about like gang culture, where like if
yes, very good, good connection.
If someone doesn't have their own individuality,
100%,
their own structure, and their own like maybe like I don't know their own ego of like they know that the path they're on and what they want out of life, and
you will always, to your point from Homer, you'll always be captured. And so if you're growing up in a thing with, say, like if without a father figure who you can't identify with, you're going to grab it somewhere else. And that's what I think a lot of with the gang culture is that's what's going on. So, 100%.
Yeah. And also, this is kind of a weird sidebar, but I've been thinking about it for like 20 minutes. And you're talking about like rap, like Grandmaster Flash, right?
Yeah.
And when you mentioned that, I thought, because I like all different kinds of hip hop, even the bad stuff. And I like the early stuff like you like, right? And I was actually thinking about why, and I think you can probably relate to this too, because I know Matt listens to like a lot of different rap, and some of it's good, and then you'd probably classify some of it as bad too, right?
Yeah,
like,
a lot of it.
But for me, it's more like mood based. So if I want to like be creative, or if I like just want my brain to think, like if I'm reading a book or like watching a good film, I'll probably listen to older rap. Like, and then if I want that, but like I want to be a little bit like aggravated or angry or just feel like on edge for a certain reason because I need that day, and maybe I'll listen to something that's more in the middle. And then like the newer stuff, which was like, like drill rap, or just like, it's just nonsense. Just like none of the lyrical content makes sense for actual life, right? Like if you break it down and you read it out loud, you're like, okay, I wouldn't do that. I don't agree with that. Like but like when I listen to that stuff, it's because I want to get something done, or I feel like maybe I've been a little too like soft lately in the sense of like I'm not being aggressive, I'm not attacking life, like or I have so much stress that I don't want to think right now, and I just want to hear something that makes me not think at all, and in fact just dumbs my brain down. So I feel like it's more of a tool for me, and I feel like that's why my thought is the reason that stuff today is so important and so like popular for people is that it helps people just not think. I think it's a numbing tool, or like kind of a.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's like I don't know, it has like a medicinal aspect.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Captured?
Yeah, people get captured by it.
Yeah.
And so it's a universal global force, and it's okay, like you said, like if you like, and it goes back to you have motivation for other people. You have motivate, and then you have awareness.
Yeah.
But it's a dangerous force. So if you don't have awareness, and it's a dangerous force if you don't have the
some
motivation.
people don't. Like they're just caught up in it.
Yeah, and then you nailed it. I mean, so that's what macrocine is. I mean, literally, literally, like if you take all the like, how do you say, the female sort of vulgar words, essentially that's one way you could describe macrocine. So it's the original rap, is what I'm saying. And then that's why when you look at it, it's just this constant force that explains why people, like you said, you wanted to be like overtaken by this thing. So you're like, and it's normal and human. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's very human. So it's not trying to demonize it. It's just trying to be aware of it. Oh, and so then we can bring up two authors. It's just, this explains The Great Gatsby, and then it explains Eyes Wide Shut. So The Great Gatsby, the whole book is about Gatsby viewing all these people being captured by it. And he's the only one has some freedom from it. And so I think F. Scott Fitzgerald said nobody really understood it. And I think that's why I've been thinking about it for a lot. So Great Gatsby is like the great gotcha. All these people in his life, like Daisy, who the woman that he admires, and then I forget all the specific names, but all of these people, it's like him observing them being captured by high society, motivation. And he's the only one who's sort of able to have some awareness to be separated from it. Now, and then he's able to act outside of it. So there's this sort of parallel greatness that he both he can watch it and it's outside of it, but then he's able to act. And what's noble about it, he's able to act independent of the being captured. And that's kind of how the book ends. And then Eyes Wide Shut, it's the same thing where Tom Cruise's character gets captured. And this is a salvation thing. And then he comes back to Nicole Kidman at the end, and she's able to accept him even though he got captured. And then that's why Kubrick called it a love story, because it's a tribute to his wife, that she was able to witness him being captured and whatever, and accept him, and then ongoingly create it. So like at the end of the movie, speaking of swear words, the last line of the word is fuck. I mean, and it's such the distillation of Makosine and her own giving the salvation as his wife to accepting him being captured. So, and her wisdom. And then in the middle of the movie, she talks about the fact that she would give up everything for him, for this sailor that she met.
Yeah.
That's Makosine T. So she had the wisdom to see it in herself, that she would give up all her family and everything for this sailor that she meets. That she was able to see it. And then he goes through it like a dumbass. And then he comes back to her and she's like, yeah, I know. And then he's like, oh, we'll be together forever in some sort of romantic thing. And she's like, no, but we can every day recommit to each other by fucking, right? I mean, this is the Makosine. I mean, that's why the vulgar, by the way, is so important, and just in passing. And the vulgar of Makosine, the vulgar of the ending of Kubrick, and the vulgar of rap music. It's so important because it speaks to that visceral part of us, that animal part of us. Yeah. And so that's why all of the vulgar stuff is what it is. And so in the Indian philosophy, they call it Tantra, or the Tantric. So if you look at all the tantric figures, they're always vulgar and disgusting.
Yeah.
And then that's why it's the symbolic representation of that vulgar, uncivilized awfulness that is us.
Now, why do you think it is that, like, whether you mean it for like truly just you want to use it temporarily for a reason, or you actually really like subscribe to it? Like, what do you think it is, if you had to guess, why we need that? Or like, and going back to like the Tantra part, like, because it seems like much bigger than just like a guy saying something ignorant and it fires me up for the moment. Like if I'm lifting weights, or if I'm like out and about driving around, it just feels correct for the part of the city I'm in, or like whatever. But like,
The Buddhist, great question. The Buddhist thing would be, is it connects us to reality. And the reality is we're just these creatures captured in this realm. And so it's reality. And then also the poison is the cure. So indulging a little bit of the poison of being in the animal realm is what gives us temporary, because that's what Buddhism says. It's not that we can't indulge a little bit in the drinking in high school or the sex or whatever. It's just that if we cling to it, that's where we get in.
Yeah.
So that's really clear with Buddhism, where like we're in the human realm.
Yeah.
And so when you're captured by the rap music, it makes you whatever, it's being real. And as long as you then are able to dissolve it and then get back to the other side of the motivation, then you're okay. I think that's my best attempt at that.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense.
But anyway, you're getting at the heart of what I find interesting, which is this, that I think that's the heart of what it is to be human. I mean, is this, so if you look at Kubrick, you look at Gatsby, like why is Gatsby considered the greatest 20th century novel? Why is Kubrick considered one of the greatest film directors of the 20th century, and then he considers that film his best film? It's because I think he finally was able to capture both of them, this truth about human reality, and have a voice of salvation for both of them. So
yeah, I like that. That's a great point. And Justin, you sent me two sort of questions that you had sort of for Bill, and I was going to see if you didn't mind if I kind of read them off, because it's going to be much harder for me to recreate your question. But Justin was saying that some Buddhist meditation practices seem to facilitate distinguishing between the mind and the self, and actively managing the former as the latter. He was saying, hypothetically, would a sufficiently advanced practitioner be able to will themselves into a flow state, irrespective of circumstance?
Yeah, it's actually take it into two parts. So leave the second part out about flow because that complicates it. Can you read the first part again?
Yeah, it says some Buddhist meditation practices would seem to facilitate distinguishing between the mind and the self.
Yeah, let me talk about that first. So yeah, so the key, I think, at least from, and by the way, I'm just a practitioner. I'm not any, I don't have any
Yeah, Lama status.
training. It's all personal. So just
Sure.
to bracket it there, and any mistakes then are maybe there. But so I'm not an authority for sure. But anyway, but to the point of self and mind, yeah, the base idea is that we ongoingly construct an identity that separates us from mind, and then mind is sort of a universal thing. So in some easy way, so my Lama Ole, who's sort of taught me over the years, you would say that we're sort of like a receiver into mind, and then we create obscurations that disconnect us from it. So clinging to things, and now we're not connected. So if you're connected to mind, you'll have these experiences of, so Buddhists describe what mind is separate from individual, which is there's a sense of joy, a sense of clarity, sense of peace. So if there's an experience where you have those qualities, then that means that you're connected to mind. And then mind ultimately is what they call a basic thought, that the only lasting joy is knowing mind, and knowing mind meaning having peace, having clarity, and that kind of thing. So that would be the first thing, is that there is this idea. Now, they don't say that the self or the ego is bad. I want to be clear about that, because I think it's easy to make it black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So let me spend a little time on this, because this is important.
Sure.
There isn't a black and white. There's actually a fourfold logic to Buddhism. So there's the ego, but the ego causes problems. But at the same time, you can have the ego and you can have it both. So you can have the ego. It gives us some pleasure. But then this pleasure causes us some problems. But then you can have both at the same time. And then you can have something that transcends both. So they have this idea of the fourfold logic. And then normally what we do is reduce it to either or. So in the question, it says self and mind, but really in Buddhism, it has a fourfold logic. So there isn't this distinguishing between the mind and self. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to have, so that's what I talk about in my academic world, is I talk about the fourfold all the time, because normally when we talk, there's a self and a mind.
Yeah.
We always talk in black and white, but Buddhism, they have a fourfold logic. So you can talk about the black and white world, but then there's this other world as well, the karma world.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a fourfold logic. And so does that make sense? Okay.
No, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So then what was the second half? And then
the second half of that was would a sufficient advanced practitioner be able to will themselves into a flow state irrespective of circumstance?
Yeah. So I would say, okay, so we have to be careful there, but I would say from my experience with the enlightened people, teachers, like Lama Ole, like that they're always in flow state, but not in the way that we think of flow state. So it's that, like, essentially for them, flow state is like, I just remember one time with Lama Ole, he just turned to me and he literally, like, it felt like the rest of the world stopped and he was completely focused on me. So that's what flow state is for him, is every moment he's just present.
Not just from like a productivity standpoint.
Correct.
Or
it's literally like my experience of it was I'm recreating it now, but it's like he was he did a talk and then I didn't get a chance to speak to him, and then he was in the hallway. So then I got to talk to him. He's like, he turned to me and said, okay, I'm going to focus on you. And then all I remember is everything stopped and he said, he gave me something. And then he went on with this. So I think the great teachers who are quote unquote have been enlightened have this ability to just be present in every moment.
Yeah.
But it's not related to flow in the sense of your definition. So,
yeah,
so we have to be careful, because I think we're talking about Csikszentmihalyi's sense of flow, which is a state of optimal performance, right?
Yeah.
So so I would say, so you could argue, I guess, and I'm making this up as we go along, that they're in flow state in terms of optimal mind all the 24/7.
Okay.
And the quality of optimal mind flow is clarity, presence, peacefulness, and benefiting all other beings. So I think, so that's how I would say it. But is that helpful?
Yeah, it's a different it's a different flavor of flow than what we think about with gaming or productivity.
So yeah, because the key is, and we were talking, I have this other teacher Rachel, who trains me, and then she was her teacher was Lama Gendun, who was based in France but is Tibetan. And so he had this book on ambition, and he basically talks about if you have any ambition in your practice as a Buddhist, you're doing it wrong. So it's this weird, but this goes back to the fourfold logic, right?
Serious.
So because if you have a goal in your meditation, now you're stuck in the dual world.
Yeah, and
So the access to Buddhism is to be in the fourfold world, and that's why you have to practice in a way where it's just what you do.
I see what you were saying earlier. You're like, oh, that kind of complicates it, and I also took that as like, just be careful, because if you're trying to be into that side of things, focus on that. It's hard to force a flow state when it should just be based on the way that you're viewing the world, or like people around you or the things around you.
I mean, I can make one comment back to the flow state, because I think I've had a few. So one was playing basketball when I was a teenager. Like, I was decent up to my freshman year, and I remember playing and being in the flow state. And I would say it has the quality of mind.
Yeah.
So it was very present. Oh, vastness is a key word I've been using, or this is good actually, because I've been thinking on vastness. One of the qualities of mind is vastness. So I can literally think back to that moment, and I just remember how vast, as I was on a tennis court playing basketball, and I remember how vast everything was. Like, I could almost see all the things around. So as I was playing, and everything was easy, it was very peaceful.
Yeah.
I was very present, and then there was high output. So I would say that the qualities of mind that show up in the flow state in terms of performance, that and I would say, if you think of Michael Jordan, I know he talked about visualization.
Yeah.
So the visualization speaks to mind in the sense of like the vastness of mind. So vastness is a term that all the teachers use in terms of describing mind, in terms of the qualities. So when you're in a flow state, there's this, I think it's almost like some of your blinders are up, and then you kind of have this much more vast vision, and then you're able to then perform. So it's not that flow state in and of itself is not connected to mind. I would say there's some relationship there, that like that it's tapping, flow state is tapping into the qualities of mind, and for personal benefit, but it's not and that's probably the reason it's not lasting. It's like, whereas a Lama, it's lasting. So that's the big difference.
Yeah, temporary versus permanent thinking.
And for sure.
Now, do you ever find yourself getting into those like sort of like thought processes, like with lifting or training people, or like working on ritual, or even like video games? Do you ever notice that and it's not a right or wrong answer, I was just curious, because
all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because like, I know there's a lot of things that you and I are really similar on, and there's other things that are like
grasp
it, and I'm curious if that's something you
grasp onto things.
Do you seek that out, or is it something you just notice that? Well, sorry, you can go back to the grasping in a second, but do you seek that out, or do you just notice it's something that you fall into if you're working on something long enough, or do you actually like want to get there and
I guess
like strive to get there?
So something with me, and you probably know this about me for knowing me a long time, I get bored with things quickly.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I have gotten bored with, and there's certain things that I haven't gotten bored with, or I've found other ways to not get bored with things. I think one of the biggest things with the gaming for me is like the state of the world, like stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm an empathetic person, and just like, it's just been a lot for me. So the gaming kind of took me away from social media, which social media to me is kind of toxic in a sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me personally, like, it just has not been good for my mental
I think it's
state.
safe to say it's probably for a large majority of people, whether they're aware or not. I think that's
and this is like really good, beneficial like podcast that we're doing, because like talking about like the power of search like SOAs, and like just like how society has been molded by like fine-tuned by by technology, and like the thought of AI being like kind of on our side with it is kind of almost like something to like, oh wow, it might help us, like making a digital, like like it might make help us create a digital twin that can fight, like the enemy. like social media. Anyway, so back to your point. Yes, I get in these like. I mean, did I answer it right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of like I was just asking you, like, as far as your flow state, because you were kind of talking about like using gaming as like an escape or social media and
Yeah.
things like that. But like, as far as flow state goes, like, so I'll explain just for myself. Like, I'll notice that I'm in that if it seems like I haven't tried to get there, but I just kind of got into whatever I'm doing and just sort of like ended up there
Yes.
by doing like these little remedial tasks that end up being something much bigger.
Yes.
And then I open up like an ability level that allows me to just really like not just be productive, but see things differently, as opposed to when I just started doing that thing. I wouldn't be able to see it that way.
Yeah.
And the other thing that kind of goes back to what Bill was talking about from like a Buddhist perspective is that I always notice that my flow state is better if everything around me seems to be in the same mode, whether those people are even aware of it or not, or like it's sunny outside or not, or whatever like other circumstances are going on. It seems like it's not just me. And that's when I benefit the most, is when it's everything around me.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you ever
I
get
have.
into those modes with like work or like ritual or lifting or like whatever it may be.
I mean, yeah. So
I don't know if everyone's like that, or if it's like different for everyone. I don't know. I've never talked to anyone about it before.
I get into flow states, and it's not like a constant thing where I'm in a flow state. You know, there's ups and downs all the time. So one thing that I know for myself, when I'm in a really good work, like any flow state, where there's all parts of my life are kind of like good, and like, you know, without trying good, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I try and force a flow state, it makes me resent it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Justin?
It does. And I wonder if it's like, to try to put my Nuvi Buddhist kind of take on it. That's kind of like the attachment that you that they recommend that you try to avoid, like to try to needing to be in the flow state and like trying to have the ambition of being in the flow state, as opposed to just sort of appreciating it when it is.
For instance, I'll give you guys an example
on that.
Ritual, I've kind of haven't been too creative over the last few months, and I've kind of not been productive. And I spoke with our friend Caroline's husband Jonathan about it, and he said, Matt, don't force it, it'll come. And that really resonated with me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, it will. When the time is there, it'll come.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like the older I get, the more I've realized when I've tried to force anything, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, even like relationships.
Anything.
Those are usually the worst.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you like over-invested and you try to like, you know, fit it in a groove that it doesn't fit into.
And I think that goes back to the beginning of our conversation about like how humanity is just molded, you know, like.
So I would say you're, well, here's a poem from Talopa, who's a great Tibetan master that speaks to your experience.
Yes.
Don't hold what has passed. Don't pretend what may come. Don't resist what is now. Don't examine what happened. Don't manipulate any outcome. Rest. Let stillness find you.
Yes.
So that's and it's a little, I took a little liberty with the interpretation, but
could you share that to Lawrence so I could
we'll get it. And then well, because it's also like the present, the future, the past, and then also it has, and then it's manipulation, that's like the ego, and then the rumination is don't examine, and then just resting. So and then and then for you, you kind of, I think, stumbled on a Buddhist term for flow that was inspiring. When you were saying, you said when things around you, right, are in a certain state. So they call this the Mahamudra, which is a famous Buddhist term, or like a core term. So Maha means like beyond or supreme, and then Mudra means like they interpret it as seal, but it's as in like a seal on a gasket or something. But that's what it is. It's kind of like when you capture in this moment where like everything empties out, and then you're open more to the vastness. So they call it like sort of the Great Seal. So just to give you some of the terminology of what you're experiencing, and also when you use these fancy terms, it sounds like, oh, it's some crazy thing. But it's like
Yeah.
you're when you, like you said, then there's this configuration of other people. But by the way, you don't necessarily, it's not actually the people are harmonizing with you. It's actually you're harmonizing with what's going on.
Yeah.
That's so it's so just to rephrase it, because
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Cause
Like-
like, it's not like they're aware of what you're,
it's so the great seal
Yeah.
is when you wake up to the emptiness of all of them, and so then you're in a mind state where you
Yeah.
can see like, oh, everything's perfect as it is.
yeah.
There's nothing, and so it's really you being in the Mahamudra. Like, so what it means is like you're just sealed with beyond self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I like it because it feels delusional, but I don't think it's a bad thing because the outcomes are good. Like in my life and then the other people around me, I don't see a negative outcome from
yeah.
it.
So I mean, like,
kind of allow it
what's
to
your
be that way, you know?
what's your motivation with this gym? Like, why do you have the gym? Right? Aren't you motivated? What's your motivation there? Right?
Well, yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, now I feel like it serves a lot of people. And I just sort of, it sounds very strange, but I kind of just let the people in the gym tell me what to do. That's what I'm doing now.
So-
like, I don't, when I started it, it was like one clear thing. I was like,
So-
now I'm not sure, but I know we're going in the right direction.
So
Like, right, Matt? Would
Yeah.
you agree? Like,
Yeah, we are.
well, so then for
I
both of
mean,
you, that's the key. What's your motivation? What I'm trying to point to you is you're having these experiences that are related to sort of what you would call Buddhist thought, but it's because you're doing what's global and universal, independent of calling it Buddhist or
Yeah.
not, which is
Yeah.
your motivation is to serve other people.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, then it opens you to mind.
Yeah.
And really, so Buddhism just thinks of itself as a science. It's just describing how the mind works. So once you're motivated to serve others, then you naturally get connected to mind.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of what Achilles at the end went when he was motivated to helping Priam. Boom, the world opens up. And so when you're motivated,
Yeah.
both of you are, and then that's the access. So when you
Yeah.
talk about flow, then that's the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is you can check with yourself, am I motivated for other, or am I motivated for something for myself? And it
Yeah.
gets tricky because you have this thing called spiritual materialism where like you think you're motivated for others, but it's really, you're motivated to help others so you look good, which is, backdoor for your
Yeah.
ego to be involved.
Yeah. I think like, we were talking about like rewards earlier and we were talking about AI and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
maybe you would agree with this too. I think you do. I kind of like know you do, I would say, but I think like once everything is accomplished, like day to day or week to week or like another year or whatever goes by, it's rewarding to see what came out of
Mhm.
all the stuff that we put into this. And that's like my ego of it is like, man, that makes me feel good that I was a part of that or that like I had a hand in that, but it's not necessarily the ego day to day being like, like I did that or
Yeah.
like, see what we did. I kind of try to
Yeah.
get away from that a little bit.
I kind of, and I'm not like, I think a little different now. I
Mhm.
think over the last 3 years, I've kind of got to the point where I don't hold on to the past successes as like putting me, like I'm proud of what we've done,
Yeah.
but I kind of I love the harmony that we have
Yeah,
here
yeah.
now. So I'm like, it's like ongoing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like,
The harmony
it's
is a
like the
really
day
good,
to
that's a
day.
really good word, man.
Yeah,
Like-
the harmony that we have in like helping others and, like
Yeah.
with each other working day to day, like smiling, laughing, like it's great.
You notice how a lot lately, it's not just me and you, but
It's
people
everyone.
in general are like,
Yeah.
oh, we feel good. Like
Yeah.
the vibes have been great lately.
Yeah.
It's been really nice. We had a lot of fun today. Like
And I
we
think
didn't
that's-
say that. We didn't say that 5 years ago.
No.
It was almost never.
darker.
No.
I mean, you've been here forever. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Justin,
you've noticed a little
There-
bit of it, right?
There was definitely
We've
a
had
shift
dark,
from-
we've had dark times, but I feel like the harmony and like,
Yeah.
that's more important to me than like, I mean, yes, it's crazy to think that we started over there and now all of this stuff is here.
Yeah.
It's crazy for
Yeah.
me. It's literally insane, but it's like the harmony and the day to day is what I appreciate the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's that Pantera song, Yesterday Don't Mean Shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I
I'm
know
sure
what
it
you
was,
mean.
I'm sure he, like when that song was written, it was probably written for different reasons, but I take that as like being like, don't like rest on whatever you did before, or don't like, and also don't come in thinking like, hey, I did this previously.
Yeah.
I have to beat it or I'm worthless. Like,
But I also think like
so-
that's put me in a state of like, right now I'm in a state where I'm like, all right, I've done all this stuff in my life, right?
Yeah.
I'm proud of it, but what's next?
I
You know
feel
what
that
I
a
mean?
lot from you too, and I don't know you that well, Bill, but like that's just something that you kind of carry with you as like a vibe. Is like you've done a lot of cool things, you know. Like I think you know a lot of things, but you don't really carry that with you day to day, and it's not a part of you like that. I don't know, like you must have or else, you know.
I only just found out that you were involved in the God of War.
No,
I've known you for
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that next time for sure.
Yeah, we got to do this again.
Well, so what you're describing is called dedication of merit in Buddhism. So when you start a meditation in Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, you first set your motivation, and then at the end, after you do your activity, then you dedicate it. So what you're that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Every
I see.
time, like by not holding on to it, you're like give it away. So you're doing it. So you're doing. So that's the thing.
I
The
think we
activities
do
that
it.
you're doing.
What's that?
We do it. Like,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like your spiritual brother with me. Like just because you like the only thing in Buddhism is just codified and put it into a curriculum.
Yeah, like Ed.
So that's
Ed,
so
Are-
maybe we're doing some mystic Buddhist
oh totally
work.
are.
dude, without a doubt.
You know
like,
what I mean?
As soon as he started talking about that, I was like, yeah, I think that's a thing. And like, I was going to mention with Ed, he's our jiu-jitsu professor. I don't know if you met him, Bill, but you probably will because he'll be here in a second. But he has a thing where he says like with jiu-jitsu or with Thai boxing, you know, he's a black belt and he's a like a Thailand Boxing Association instructor, which basically means like you're a black belt at Thai boxing, right? And he always says like the information that I'm giving you is not mine, it's yours. And I'm just like something about like he always talks about like taking it, meaning like he's like putting it out there and then you can take it and make it your own.
Well,
And
the way I phrase it is
and that's the dedication is what
oh for sure.
maybe think about that where
Absolutely.
he's dedicating his black belt or his black
That's
belt,
right.
his Thailand Boxing Association instructorship, he's dedicating that to his students.
He's 100% there. And here's a more cheeky way to doing it. I just with my students, if we have a talk, I usually say I'm not here right now. I'm just a non-player character in your life because you're mining it from me. Like I'm just commentating on it.
So say that last part again. Sorry, that before the commentating.
I'm not here right now.
Yeah.
Is kind of the idea that you're manifest. So back to like that original experience where I'm emptiness.
Yeah,
You're both of you are invoking me in this form now.
I see what you're saying.
So I'm only
yeah.
a function of you.
Yeah.
And so
I like
when
it.
he's teaching it with that motivation,
Yeah.
that's why my motivation is benefit for all beings.
Yeah,
Then I'm just in service
Yeah.
to you. And then
it's
so
nice.
in some
right?
sense,
Like,
I don't exist that
yeah,
way.
and it's kind of relieving, right, to be like that. Like instead of like have this character that you have to uphold. You know what I mean? There's so much pressure and expectations, and
Yeah,
like, it
it's-
actually does the opposite.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get there. It's humbling.
You were gonna say something, I think, man. I don't know.
Oh no, I wasn't.
Oh, sorry. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's humbling and but you're doing it. So
Yeah.
so the activity that you're doing,
Yeah.
so you're motivated to help
Yeah.
others, and then your practice is giving it away.
Yeah.
That's it. And then in the middle is the work, the meditation,
yeah,
and then that's really being present and
yeah,
and all that. But then that's it.
yeah.
And so it's the same. You just keep doing the same process all the time, and then there you go. So
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have you
Sweet.
on again. We're gonna have to get into that God of War stuff, and I have like 15 notes that we didn't even touch on.
Well,
So
yeah. So my involvement
we'll
with
redo
that.
this again.
It was
soon.
just that when they started the Santa Monica studio where God of War came from,
Yeah.
so the original designer, I was the original technical director. I mean, that was the basic. So it's not much beyond that.
Yeah.
So not to play it up too much, but yeah, that's basically when I left was that time period. So
Yeah.
it was more of a more my legacy.
Transitional-
Yeah, it was more
Yeah.
there as a legacy
Got
than
it.
any
Very cool.
direct things on.
But yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But yeah, thanks for doing
Yeah,
this
thanks for
again.
coming on, guys.
We're gonna cut it short just because kickboxing is about to start.
Oh,
but I
important.
Yeah.
had a blast today, so thanks.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
good.
for doing
it's
this.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you,
Thank
Justin.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Thanks.
great.
Yeah, thanks.
It's inspiring.
We got it.
All right, man. That'll do it.
All right, sweet.